afternoon, Buffalo. I am Carlanda Meadors of Black Resource, here reporting live for BWNY News. We are here today in the studio with board members from the wonderful event that we all have been waiting to hear about, which is Juneteenth Festival. Welcome, welcome. I just want everyone to go around, introduce yourself for those that are viewing us, and tell us what is your role on the board.
Good morning. I'm Taliba Asante, also known as Joanne Peters. I am a board member and chairman of the Ma'afa Memorial Committee and the Underground Railroad Committee.
Awesome.
Greetings, I'm Marcus Brown. I'm the president of the Juneteenth Festival Board of Directors.
Greetings, I am Ras Jomo, and I'm the executive vice president of Juneteenth Festival.
Awesome, awesome. And I am just honored to have y'all here with us today. And it's 45 years. 45 years, longer than I have been living, folks, okay? And before we get into how we've evolved into 45 years, let's first talk about what is Juneteenth. Who wants to give us some historical background of what is Juneteenth and what is its purpose?
Well, I would like Sister Taliba to talk about the history of Juneteenth, because we are evolving.
Yes.
And
tell me, we had a conversation prior. Tell us about the Bill organization, how that came about.
Juneteenth in Buffalo is an offshoot of the BUILD organization. And BUILD stood for Build Unity, Independence, Liberty, and Dignity.
Wow.
And it was an activist group started by Saul Alinsky from Chicago. And its purpose was to organize various communities in the cities. So that's how BUILD started. In 1976, the country was celebrating its bicentennial celebration. And BUILD organization was approached to do something from the black community to celebrate the bicentennial. The members of BUILD says, this bicentennial isn't relevant to us. We're not going to do anything. And as it turned out, there was a member of the BUILD organization, Nate Wong, who was from Texas. And so he told the organizers from BUILD about Juneteenth in Texas. And so some of the people decided to go down to Texas, check it out, and then they came back to Buffalo, and the BUILD organization started Juneteenth here as an alternative to the country's bicentennial celebration.
Wow.
So that's how we started BUILD here in Buffalo.
Now, when you say bicentennial celebration, for those that don't know, what is
the country's 200th celebration of this country being the United States.
Right.
Okay. And it wasn't relevant to
us.
To us then, nor
Right.
now, really.
right.
And so now Juneteenth, they come back, and now Juneteenth has started.
Yeah. And it started on Jefferson. I think those of us who were around, we remember.
Yes.
It was
Shops and
one of the greatest experiences to look down Jefferson and see all of these rows of black folks, and we were all happy and loving each other, having a good time.
Sharing love.
Sharing love.
And we're still doing it
We're
till
still
this day.
doing it.
Now, how did it come about that it went from Jefferson to Martin Luther King Park?
Well, it was best to have it in the park. There was so many activities being added from year to year that we thought it would be best. Not only that, I believe that we had a little economic support from the Jefferson Businessmen Association. And before we moved it in the park, I believe it was on Fillmore Street. So we took a transition from Jefferson Avenue to Fillmore Street to the park. And we did not want to disturb the neighborhoods and the businesses surrounding Juneteenth. And we thought it would be, surrounding the festival. So we thought it'd be best. The park is beautiful.
Yes.
Martin Luther King Park. It's appropriate to have a festival in Martin Luther King Park.
Yes.
Everything you need is right there.
You're right. You're right. So it's been going on for 45 years. Who came up with all the different facets of it? Because there's entertainment, there's food, my favorite food, all of the different vendors, all of the different workshops. How do you plan and put all that together and keep it consistent?
What we had to do initially was to develop an organizational manual. And I think
Oh.
even we became incorporated before we
Incorporated,
did.
right.
We developed the manual, but we developed an organizational manual that gave us a mission on what we would do and how we would do it. So we set up a specific mission, and one of the things that's very dear to me is our mission is to educate.
Okay.
So that was this is how some of the committees came, and then we developed different committees. So the committees came through there, but we have a structure where if somebody wants to become involved with Juneteenth, they have to present their proposal to us as a board, and then we decide if it keeps with the mission of Juneteenth Festival Incorporated. So
Wow.
we have a whole organizational plan and a manual that we live by, and we have one specifically for the board of directors, and then we have a manual for our committee chairs that gives them information on how they're supposed to operate as various committees. And it's all our how our decision, how we want the organization to run. One of the things that I think Marcus will remember, that we should give homage to the first president of Juneteenth Festival, Mrs. Claudia Sims, and Mrs. Bessie Robinson. We have other people, Judson and Luther, who were around early, but Mrs. Sims, Mrs. Robinson were very particular about certain things that they would or would not have at that festival. One of those things where we were not going to get sponsorship from tobacco companies,
Wow.
from alcohol companies, those kinds of things, because they wanted it to keep that festival family friendly.
Wow.
And 45 years later, we're still keeping that on.
Keeping
That was ingrained,
that was engraved
in
in
us.
us, right.
So like a principle
That's
that
right.
you
That's
actually
right.
follow.
That's right. That's right. And so, there's a lot of things that has gone on with that festival. A lot of people understand why we do some of the things that we do. But again, I can say Mrs. Sims, Mrs. Robinson, Tony Robinson. They engraved those things into us.
A lot of people think that we just one day just go in the park and just
And just
put
throw
a
it
grill
together,
and
right?
have
Just
have
put it
fun.
together.
We plan on this for a whole year. All year we plan on having this festival. And we're not getting paid. All of us are volunteers, all of us.
Right.
Volunteer.
We've
All
been
of us are
volunteering
volunteers.
for 30-some years,
For
right?
30-some years.
And Brother Jomo, I know that, you whenever you, like the cultural guy, always, promoting and marketing things of culture and unity, it takes a certain passion, right, to volunteer and be on the board and to handle such a task.
Well, thank you. I like to thank all of the board members, and I like to thank the city, the region, and even people who have come to Buffalo all around the world right now. We're now in the 21st century. We were, in the 20th century when this started. At the last 25 years of the 20th century, if you want to look at it that way, when things started. And now we're in the 21st century. We're at a time of extreme change. This year in particular, we're at a time of a pandemic that is rearranging how everyone perceives life and its existence. But in addition to that, there are some things that have been rolling in our favor. All of these committees that were mentioned, there were other reasons behind the committees that would create sustained development for Black people in Buffalo. So this whole idea about trying to link up businesses, the whole idea about having vendors was to highlight what we were doing. Even the whole aspect of the Juneteenth. Juneteenth is a commemoration of when some of the last legally enslaved people were emancipated.
Yes.
All right. So there came a time also with the committee, as you were communicating, we have to talk about the history. There would be no need for emancipation unless human trafficking, kidnapping, forced labor, and all of those other realities had taken place. Our history don't start with the enslavement.
Yes.
And some people make a verbal communication. I think that the words have to be rearranged. They say that we're just slaves. No, we were enslaved.
Right.
Because BC, whether you want to talk about before colonialism, before captivity, or before the Berlin Conference, all those BC things are bad for us.
Right.
But before those things, we had governments, we had structures, we had age-appropriate activities, we had family responsibilities. We understood how to govern ourselves. All right. So without us having that as a reference point, it's kind of hard to put ourselves Black together again. All right. So now,
I like that.
the 21st century, listening to what the elders, because I'm one of the youngest ones on the board. And when I came in, I was one of the youngest ones on the board. Right? And what happens after you hear certain things over and over and over, what happens is you have to be responsible for what you're hearing around the table.
Yes.
And one of the glitches, Bob Marley said, we want to stop one thing, and it's the generation gap. Generation gaps occur when you don't educate your children to why you did things before. So Sankofa days, other committees, and now this whole aggressive behavior of bringing our young people close to us. That is what the Juneteenth has been about. So there are educational activities, there are all-year activities, there are new collaborations, because many babies of the Juneteenth are now supervisors, they're now presidents, they're now administrators. They moved outside of Buffalo, and all around America, no one does Juneteenth Festival like Buffalo. As a matter of fact, this is one of the most important cultural realities, not only for Buffalo or Black Buffalo, but for Buffalo, period.
I agree.
Not only for Western New York, but for all of New York and for America. And because we've been working internationally for the last, umpteen years, from South African delegation to persons from Ethiopia, persons from Bob Marley's family, people from South Africa, we have been internationalizing. So there are people in other countries, people in other continents who are watching everything we're doing. So now we're in this 21st century. We need technology to keep telling our story.
Yes.
So that's, I think, one of the other things that made us not abort this year's Juneteenth. Let it be born.
Right.
In the midst of the crisis.
And it is amazing that, like you said, we have a crisis here, and I'm sure everyone just assumed that it would be canceled because, I know summer doesn't exist in Buffalo without Juneteenth. Let's just be real here. Like, I had people coming from out of town, and I had people that are from out of town that live here, and I was like, oh, you haven't been to Juneteenth yet. Like, that is the best thing that we have going on, because like you mentioned, it definitely appeals to everybody, young, old. It's a time where you can come in your family. It's always Father's Day. So it's like an iconic event in Buffalo for us, for
but
us,
not just
by
Buffalo.
us.
That's
and like you said,
not
it's
to
everywhere.
cut you, but just to remind you, we have to realize how Western New York is being visualized by the rest of the country, by Canada, and by the world. Your media, what's happening with the radio stations, what's happening with television, what's happening with pictures. People are traveling all around, and they're talking about what's happening here. We've had people from Texas who were our main speakers who came here, and they said, listen, the things that you all are doing, we wouldn't dream of doing those things in Texas. Something terrible might happen in public if we tried to put a red, black, and green flag up in front of our city hall.
Really?
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Do you think that everyone around America is doing? Buffalo has flag raisings where the red, black, and green flag is representing a call of unity. We have people who have come here from Ethiopia, and went directly to God and said, listen, these black people in Buffalo are doing something I've never seen before.
Right?
They have the Marcus Garvey flag, the red, black, and green flag raised right next to the U.S. flag, and the city supports that. Our diversity is our unity, but we have to know ourselves. Okay. And then the world appreciates you a lot better when you know that you bring something to the table, and they can't deny, hey, they bring something to the table because they know it.
Yes. And then just the fact of, like you said, all the planning that's involved, and the elders and the younger generation working together collectively. I think that is just absolutely beautiful. And how do you speak to the fact that it wasn't canceled and we are in a crisis? Like, obviously things have to be done in a virtual manner. How, as elders on the board, is that a challenge? In the planning and implementation?
Very much.
Be real about that.
I want to hear this.
And of course, having to walk around wearing masks. And yes, we all are masked up in here, but speak about the challenges of that, because that's something that our people are dealing with now.
I believe most of our board is computer literate, but this goes deeper than that.
Computer illiterate?
But this goes deeper than that.
Yeah.
I had no idea the things you could do with the technology that exists today.
Yes.
No idea, I'm learning, and we're going. That's why one of the reasons why our theme is the evolution of Juneteenth.
Yes, the evolution of Juneteenth.
The evolution of Juneteenth. And we're heading from the 60s to the 70s, the 80s to the 20s. Now we're going into another dimension.
Yes.
And and it's almost like passing the torch to the younger generation. That's one of the reasons why I wanted for us to have this, meeting today, and we can talk and film, because as a young child going to school, I wasn't privileged to all of this.
Right.
And and a lot of other children like me were not. We need to tell a story, as my sister says. We need to let our young folks know from whence we came.
And that's why we're documenting it, because it's so important, because we can take this and document, move on. And right now, before we go into the events of the festival, we're just going to take a quick commercial break.
Hi, this is Jennifer Strickland, Public Relations Chair and Board Member of Juneteenth Festival of Buffalo Incorporated. Although this year's festival has been canceled due to the ongoing pandemic of COVID-19 or the coronavirus, the Board of Directors of Juneteenth Festival of Buffalo has decided to take advantage of this wonderful world of technology. So, in the tenacious spirit of Juneteenth Festival of Buffalo, and in keeping with the mission of Juneteenth 365, the Board of Directors has decided that the festival is still on, just not outdoors in MLK Park as we've always known it for so many years, but online, where we will continue to enrich, educate, and enlighten our community with information and resources that will strengthen our physical and mental health, our understanding of our culture, our financial and economic strategies, and of course, our spirits. So I ask you to stay tuned to see and hear from supporters of the festival, our vendors, our sponsors, our board and committee members, and of course, from the community. Please share this message with your Facebook friends, with your family, with your friends who are not on Facebook, and let them know that Juneteenth 2020 is still on, just not outdoors, but online. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay strong. Ashe.
Welcome back. Carlanda of Black Resource reporting live for BWNY News, and I'm here with the board members of Juneteenth Festival, and we were just talking about how the fact that obviously we're in the middle of a crisis, and Juneteenth, 45 years and still going on. And I have this flyer here, and it says Virtual Juneteenth Festival of Buffalo 2020, and 45th consecutive Juneteenth Festival of Buffalo is still on, but online. Right. I just love that. It's still on, but online. And the theme online is free and clear, the evolution of Juneteenth. So obviously we know that being in Martin Luther King Park is a significant, part of the festival that we all love gathering. And now we have to do that virtually online. So tell us, what does that look like as far as you guys planning? How does that work?
Well, when the idea came about, I had no idea. And we sat down, and just like I'm an Obama fan. Okay. And what I like about our past president is if there was anything that he wasn't aware of or didn't know, he would bring people to the table that had the expertise. Yes. And he would listen to them. Unlike somebody else I know. You can listen to them and you follow their advice. So one of the things we decided to do is bring on a technology team that knew a lot more than we did, and how we could bring this venture forward. And when we found out of all the things that can be done, we were totally surprised.
Blown away, right?
Blown away.
It's a lot. I know Brother Khalil is on that team, and we've had significant conversations. We want to create TikTok dances and doing all these things virtual, and even are in the midst of making videos where we are actually out at the park and it's live streamed as part of the festival. So even though it's online, you still will get that feel of the elements of being in the park. Now, what about as far as the parade? That's one of the things. Just tell us how, more in the history of the parade. How did that come about? Like, was it always so many different participants in the parade?
Well, it grew. Once upon a time, there used to be a young man named Marcus Brown who was in charge of the parade. And we were excited
Which is you,
about,
just in case anybody missed that, that's him.
and we were excited about the parade. We watched it grow. When we started our campaign with the parade, we were given a book, and it had two entries in it, two members, two groups. One was from Canada.
Really?
And the other, I'm serious.
The parade only had 2 groups?
We were given a book from Mr. Johnson, bless his soul.
I'm in shock right now. What?
And it had 2 names in it. One was a band from Port Dover, Canada, and the other one was a group from right here in Buffalo.
See, I just always thought it started with
And
the
then all of a
Crusaders,
sudden it
Mr.
just
Brown.
grew. It just grew. It just grew. Everybody wanted to be a participant of the parade. And one time the drill teams, they just loved the parade.
Oh my
you
God.
know.
Was that your idea to implement the drill teams?
I had to. I was director of the Crusaders Marching Unit. And they love it. They look forward every year. We never missed a Juneteenth.
Yes, I think that's one of the highlights of is, you know, and it seems like the makeup of the parade is different groups. You have the politicians, you have the clergy, you have the community organizations, the non-for-profits, the businesses. But when the drill team and the youth come through doing they step, even when the Masonic Lodge steps, I am just,
Right.
like, to me, that's just one of the highlights.
Right.
And when you think about it, people are literally standing outside for 2 hours, 3 hours straight with no problem, just watching the parade.
And these young kids, they practice all during the year, just
Yes,
for Juneteenth.
Just for Juneteenth.
And their parents come out to watch them.
It's funny because last year, Juneteenth, I remember, obviously, I'm part of MVP,
Of course.
and we were in the parade, and I was the campaign manager for Pharaoh Page, who was running for office, so I had to be on the trailer with him. But it was like, well, I can't not be an MVP, so I literally was changing my shirt and running back and forth for like, I would walk along with MVP and shout, and then I would run back and then change into my campaign shirt with Pharaoh and get on the trail. And I mean, I literally did this all the way through, and then somebody was like, you got a sister? 2 sisters? I was like, no, that was me. I was just going back and forth. But as exhausting as it was also exhilarating because, you know, it is a major thing to be part of the parade. And from Little Birdie told me the parade will still go on, but in a sense virtually this year.
Virtually. Not only that, you have an added aspect to that because not only will you see the parade virtually, you will also see aspects of the past parades. Matter of fact, I even think you have the first parade ever was on Jefferson Street is going to be aired. Yes.
Really? The first parade of June? That is amazing. And to think about it is, you know, there's always footage. I always have to get a new phone afterwards because I've used so much footage recording the parade. And sometimes you just never get to see these videos. Right. So one of the things that, you know, this epidemic has caused, the fact is that we are utilizing technology to be able to see that footage. Oh my God, will it be in black and white? I just wait.
I don't remember, but I think it is.
I think it is.
I think it is.
Sure, I think it is.
Wow, that is amazing. And so now, what about marketing aspect? You know, we have flyers. I know there's a YouTube page. There's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. How is the board like actively marketing Juneteenth virtually?
Well, you know, it's really not any different than marketing the festival. We try to use the same procedures that made us successful in the past to do this venture. People seem to, sometimes you have to think outside the box, of course, but still, it's the same procedure, the book was written. All we have to do is follow the script.
Yes.
And that's the truth.
Yes. And then, you know, one of the other parts of the festival as far as vending opportunities. And I know we'll actually be able to promote businesses, so you'll have their information online, so people will still be able to patronize businesses that were in the festival. What about food? Are we going to be able to get some restaurants that are involved that are maybe open, and then maybe people can just drive up and order food?
Well, there's some restaurants that have not been open that hopefully will soon be open because we're going into a different phase, so says the governor. So there will be opportunities for them to be, you know, to go get food.
Yeah,
you know.
We do have a segment from Manna
Right.
Yes,
that
Manna
will be
Culinary.
included in our scripts. I don't know all of these terms, but
Yes.
Manna will be advertised. So
Right.
he did come out and support, and he's been Dale has been a supporter for Juneteenth for many years.
Yes, I
and
actually interviewed him,
Mhm.
and you know what's funny is I all my years of going to the festival, I would stop at his
of
booth
course.
to eat his food, and I
Mhm.
always said, "Man, I wish you had a restaurant right here so I can eat this all year round." And now we
Now
have
we
Manna,
have
and
it.
I can eat there all the time. I actually work at Manna, so
Mhm.
it's beautiful. And we have a dish called the
Juneteenth,
Juneteenth,
that's what I was
which
getting
is the
ready to mention.
whiting, the
It's
rice,
excellent.
and comes on.
It's
So
excellent.
I just think it's amazing that Juneteenth is continuing and Juneteenth is evolving.
Right.
What is some information that you want to give our viewers as far as, I know we have the flag raising, which is a significant part of the festival, and people can get flags? Is that something what is it that you want people to know of how they can actively participate?
Well, we will be selling flags on the corner of Moselle and that Moselle and East Ferry.
I think so. The grants.
Grants.
Variety store?
Variety
Okay,
store.
Betty Jean Grant store. Awesome.
Yes. And we're hoping that anybody that does have a flag would present their flag on the 13th and 14th. Show it, put it on the porch or whatever,
Yes.
or put it on the cars, whatever, to show their pride and who they are,
Yes.
who we are.
That is definitely. And if you want to be involved, we're probably going to be putting together like a video footage or a TikTok with the flag. So make sure you reach out to BWNY News on our Facebook or Black Resource on Facebook, or either Juneteenth of Buffalo on Facebook, so that you can be involved. Any last words you have for our viewing audience to celebrate 45 years? We got about 4 minutes left, so
Okay. We're
anything you just
dedicating
wanna-
this festival to Agnes Baines this year.
yes,
And
ma'am.
also to Mrs. Sims and
Mrs.
Mrs.
Sims
Robinson.
and Miss
Because
Robinson.
those were the people, we certainly love Agnes, but young people need to understand we need to honor Mrs. Sims and Mrs. Robinson,
Yes.
who gave us, those of us who've been around for many years, that initiative to keep it going for 45 years.
Yes.
And we're certainly hoping that we can get that message to the younger people that are on the board to keep it going another 45 years. To also to train our young people, as you saw, I'm training have 3 teenagers, young teenagers,
Yeah,
helping me
faith, yes.
do the Underground Railroad tours, because they have to know to tell that story. And so what we have to do is strategically prepare our young people to take over for us.
That's right.
Yes.
The evolution of Juneteenth.
That's right, the
The
evolution.
evolution of Juneteenth continues, and thank you.
Oh,
Thank
can I
you
just say
all for
something? I
being
got a minute?
Yes,
minute.
thank you all for passing the torch to us.
Okay. This is from one of my favorite books, Let the Circle Be Unbroken, by Dr. Marimba Ani. And she says, I'm not going to speak the Swahili, but it interprets as, let us come together and define our cause. And that's how Juneteenth in Buffalo started. We came together and defined our cause and how we would celebrate this country's bicentennial celebration.
And here it is 45 years later, and we are still celebrating. So I just want to thank you again. And everyone, there you have it. You want to make sure that you tune in to Facebook, be a part of Juneteenth Buffalo. It's still on. It might not be in the park, but it's online. And we want you to celebrate with us and your families. Peace and love. Carlanda Meadors of Black Resource, signing off for BWNY News.